Our feet have no nose. Yes, you heard that right. It wasn't an accent. It wasn't just that I had totally lost it. Our feet have no nose. And my body proves it. Because I have a terrible sense of smell and I grew to be 6'6", so most of my body spent its whole time trying to get away from my feet. But the expression, our feet have no nose, is actually from the Xhosa peoples of South Africa. And what they really mean by that is that it's really hard to know for your feet, when we travel, where we are truly welcome and where we're not welcome. We can't sniff out where the places are welcome. That's what they mean by our feet have no nose. And it's hard. Those of us who have traveled, or even just those of us who go into different new environments you've never been in before, it's kind of hard to know how welcome, how hospitable the place is. And as some of you know, I was in India this summer in July. I'd never been to India before. And I had an experience there that kind of shows some of the struggle there. And I was in this small town, and I was the only white person I saw for about 3 days there. But it was the monsoon season, because I know when to go on holiday. And so what happened during the monsoon season, everyone just finds shelter wherever they can. So I was at the town square when it came pouring down, and we were all sheltering under some alcove. And I got talking to this older man who looked like he was in difficult times. And I got talking to him. And he was very friendly, and of course when he found out I was a religious leader, kind of like I mentioned last week in the Jewish tradition, the Indian people really respect religious leaders. And so he was very nice, and he saw me as a spiritual leader, and we got talking, and I'd mentioned, he asked where I was staying, I mentioned the hotel, and we left. And then 2 days later, I've got a message from the desk saying he had called the hotel looking to speak to me. And I was a little bit suspicious. I was like, what does he want? I didn't give him a name, I don't think, but he managed to track me down, probably the big scary white guy. It was probably what he described me. And so I thought, I'm not going to, he left a number, but I didn't call him back. And then I was leaving 2 days later, and I got a phone call half an hour when I was packing. Of course, I was running late, and I was packing to leave and check out the hotel room to say that he was downstairs waiting for me. And I was a little bit like, this is a bit much. I said, look, I'm too busy, I can't do it. Tell him, thank you very much, but I need to go. I went downstairs, I was getting a car to the airport. He was standing there with a rose as a gift for me. Just a single rose. I don't think I've ever been given a flower in my life. But this stranger who I talked to, maybe for about 15, 20 minutes, brought me a rose as a going away gift. I have to say I felt really bad because I realized I did not have the courage to engage with him. He called me, he wanted to meet, and I was like, I'll be honest, I thought he wanted money. I thought he was playing me because I was in that environment. I was not willing to take that step, to take that risk. And that's what I'm kind of realizing around the idea of hospitality and welcoming. It takes two people. We need to be open to hospitality. We need to be open to welcome. And we need to engage people as well. And I want to talk about the difference between hospitality and entertainment, because I think so much of our society is about hospitality. About entertainment. And it's not really about hospitality, because hospitality requires us to have that deeper relationship, to take that next step, to take that risk, to engage someone deeply. And we have an epidemic of homelessness, of homelessness in our culture, and we have an epidemic of loneliness in our culture. And I've read this shocking thing a couple of weeks ago that some people would rather choose loneliness than an intimate connection. They would rather choose loneliness than an intimate connection and risk an intimate connection. But I hope we in this community, that everyone enters this door, is willing to risk an intimate connection. Whether you've been coming here for 30 years or whether this is your first day, are you willing to risk an intimate connection with someone here? Because we need that intimate connection. And when we ask someone, how are you doing? And they reply, I invite you all to follow up with another question. How are you really doing? How are you really doing? And be prepared for the answer. Because I think that's inviting that intimate connection. And to have that intimate connection and that interconnection, you need courage to take the risk. You need to be open to it. Because intimacy is ultimately about a deep care and support for someone else. And it's a two-way relationship. We need courage, we need trust, we need connection so that we can have those intimate connections that our society, that our body, that our spirit, that our soul is crying out for. And that's what I hope we can provide here to everyone who enters the doors, everyone who comes online. Can we find a way to have that intimate connection? Because so much of a society is around entertainment, and it's not about that deep, deep connection. And we are social beings. The reason we are all in this existence is because our ancestors at some point cooperated with one another to make humanity what it is today. And now we are becoming more and more isolated, and I worry that without these intimate connections, without this sense of community, we all say when we come to religious, UUFRC, we say we want community. And I'm asking you, is it really community you want? Or is it some sense of intimacy? Is it a deeper intimacy we want? I invite you to think about that, because I think it's an intimacy that we want more than community.